All right, when we hit 10, it is good.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Good morning and welcome to the business meeting of the Kansas Corporation Commission, originally scheduled for January 7th, 2025, but rescheduled to today, January 8th, 2025, due to inclement weather. I am Chair French, joined by my colleagues Commissioner Keene and Commissioner Keither. On today's agenda, we have 20 consent agenda items, 2 noticed items, and 1 discussion item. I do anticipate that I will amend the agenda to add 1 additional order for our consideration relating to a transportation matter. And I also expect that the commission, or I will make 2 separate motions to enter into 2 separate executive sessions at the end of our agenda. So with that, we will begin with our consent agenda. Commissioners, you've had the opportunity to review the 20 consent agenda items. Let me ask at this time if you have any questions about those items, beginning with Commissioner Keither.
No, I do not.
And Commissioner Keene.
No questions from me either. I would move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please vote aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, say no. The consent agenda is approved. We now turn to our noticed items. Our first noticed item is in docket number 24 GIMG 453 GIG, and this is a proposed order on joint application for permanent waiver of knock and collect provisions of commission billing standards. Our presenter for this item is Mr. Brian Vidodin. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Commissioners. On December 15th, 2023, Atmos Energy Corporation and Kansas Gas Service filed a joint application to discontinue the knock and collect provisions in the Commission's billing standards. And the billing standards require the utility companies to attempt face-to-face contact or knock and collect with customers before discontinuing service. And both KGS and Atmos, or Kansas Gas and Atmos, are on a temporary waiver provision currently. On November 6th, 2024, staff filed a report and recommendation recommending making that waiver permanent for Atmos, Kansas Gas, and also Black Hills, but making Black Hills waiver contingent on it implementing a customer education program. Staff's report also recommended reinstating disconnection and reconnection fees for delinquent customers. CURB filed its response and doesn't object to a permanent waiver of the knock and collect requirements for the gas utilities, but CURB recommended that disconnection and reconnection fees should be eliminated. The gas utilities basically agree with staff's report and recommendation, or accept staff's report and recommendation. And so this order grants a permanent waiver of knock and collect to Atmos and Kansas Gas Service. It also grants a permanent waiver to Black Hills, but Black Hills waiver is contingent on it implementing a customer education program. And the commission takes no action on the reconnection disconnection fees and defers those to each gas utility's next rate case. With that, I'm available for questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vidodin. Are there any questions on this item, beginning with Commissioner Keene?
No questions. I do have a comment, however. Appended to this order is my concurring in part and dissenting in part opinion. I agree with the Commission's decision to grant permanent waivers of the knock and collect provisions of the Commission's billing standards. However, I write separately to express my disagreement with the Commission's decision to defer consideration of whether to socialize the costs of disconnection and reconnection fees incurred by customers who failed to pay their bills. In essence, my opinion was that we should go ahead and address that matter forthrightly at this time. The detailed rationale for my position is set out in my concurring in part and dissenting in part opinion. So I'll dispense with anything further. Anybody who cares about that can read that at their leisure. Having said that, I would move approval of the order.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to approve the order, obviously noting that Commissioner Keen is concurring in part and dissenting in part. Is there any further discussion of that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. The order is approved. With that, I'll pull up my agenda, 'cause it's a long one.
Yeah.
We turn to our second noticed item. This is in docket number 25 TRAM 194 PEN, and this is a proposed penalty order in that docket. And our presenter for this item is Mr. Hassan Latif. Good morning, Hassan.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. The penalty order before you arises out of compliance review of Go Trucking Incorporated, a common carrier that hauls grain, feed, hay, sand, and scrap metal operating out of Garden City, Kansas. From September 11th to October 8th, 2024, staff special investigators conducted a compliance investigation on this carrier and found 84 violations, and the order before you sets forth those violations in 17 specific counts, resulting in $14,950 in total penalties. I'll briefly summarize a few of the violations. There was a $1,000 fine for failing to enroll in a random alcohol controlled substance testing program, a $2,000 fine for providing staff with fraudulent annual inspections, a $4,000 fine for providing staff with fraudulent records of duty status. Staff was provided 25 false logs, a $1,000 fine for failing to conduct a post-accident controlled substance test on a driver that was involved in a fatality accident, and a $1,500 fine for hauling loads over the statutory weight limit of 85,000 pounds. Additionally, staff found violations for failing to inspect, maintain, and repair vehicles, drug and alcohol testing violations, and record-keeping violations, among others. Staff believes the fines are appropriate and recommends approval of the penalty order. I and staff members are present and available to stand for any questions that you have.
All right, thank you, Hassan. Are there any questions on this item, beginning with Commissioner Keither?
I just think it's really egregious. I don't understand how they can still be allowed to be on the road, period, even with all the fines. I mean, I just don't understand. So I guess I don't have questions.
If you'd like a response, we've got staff here, but I think you made your statement, and but do let us know if you'd like any further response. Commissioner Keen, any questions?
None for me, thank you. I would move approval of the order.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the order as described in this docket. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. The order is approved. Thank you, Hassan.
Thank you.
Now we move to the portion of the agenda where I'm going to amend the agenda just a bit, and I would ask that the commission take up an order in docket number 25 TRAM 269 MIS, and the title of this order is Order Granting Temporary Waiver of Federal Regulations for Carriers Providing Direct Assistance or Residential Heating Fuel during the state of emergency declared by Governor Laura Kelly. And that's a somewhat self-explanatory title, but I do want to ask at this time, we've got Mike Hamey, Director of our Transportation Division, with us, and we have Brian Fedotin. Brian prepared the order, but Mike, I know you brought this to our attention. If you could please just briefly summarize the action the commission is taking in this order and why we felt it necessary to do this.
Absolutely. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. On January 4th, Governor Kelly issued a verbal state disaster proclamation due to the weather Kansas is experiencing. This opens up resources to be used to provide direct assistance to the weather-related issues. It doesn't provide specific industry exceptions that are required under the federal regulations for the transportation industry. Part 390.23 identifies automatic relief from regulations. The commission's order has addressed two of those specific exceptions that we must follow in order to protect the transportation industry and inform enforcement of what the commission's intentions are. The first one that we identify in the order is a regional declaration. This waives the maximum driving time for both property and passengers. It also only allows a 14-day window from the initial date of the disaster declaration. The second is a residential heating and fuel issue, and that's a 30-day window, and that accepts all the regulations from Part 390 through 399. So there are differences and very specific, which, like I said, protects motor carriers, drivers at roadside, while they're out there operating to provide direct assistance to the disaster, and or months after the issue has been settled. If a compliance investigation, the company is going through a compliance investigation, they have this documentation. So the importance of the commission's order is, one, FMCSA will publish it on their website. So not only the industry has access, but also enforcement. The commission will also do that here on our website. And we have specific people we will send it out to as well, so that everybody's aware of what is available to them. That is the primary importance of the commission's order.
Well, thank you, Mike. I know you worked hard and early to identify this in coordination with the Kansas Highway Patrol, and so we do thank you for elevating it to us. I wish we could have gotten to it a little sooner, but it's been difficult to get anything done these last couple of days. But I wanted to express my appreciation to you for moving it along and getting it raised up. So at this time, I will ask if there are any other questions of Mr. Hamey or of Mr. Fedotin about this order granting a temporary waiver of the described regulations. I'll begin with Commissioner Keither.
No questions, but thanks to both of them for their work.
And Commissioner Keen. And you are muted, Commissioner Keen.
Try that again. No questions either. I would, however, rush to second the observations of the chair, and thank you, Mike, for being proactive in this particular instance here in coordinating the activities of our transportation division, pardon me, with the Kansas Highway Patrol. I think it's all in the interest of public safety and taking into account the contingencies that arise through severe weather events of this sort. Having said that, I would move approval of the order.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to approve the order as described in this docket. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. The order is approved. All right, we will now move to the next item, which is listed on today's agenda. And this is a presentation of proposed regulation for docket number 25 CONS 3194 CINV. So this is a proposed conservation regulation. And our presenter for this item is Mr. Tristan Kimbrell. Good morning, Tristan.
Good morning. Thank you. So Director Ryan Hoffman and I are here just to give a brief presentation on a proposed regulation that the Conservation Division is hoping to promulgate. As a bit of background, under KSA 55-180, if a well has been abandoned for 5 or more years, a person with no obligation to plug the well can go ahead and plug the well and then seek reimbursement from the Abandoned Oil and Gas Well Fund. So the regulation we are proposing will provide the process people will follow when seeking reimbursement from the fund. So basically, the proposed regulation requires people interested in plugging an abandoned well to first submit a plugging reimbursement application to the Conservation Division, then obtain approval from the director of the Conservation Division. They then have to plug the well in accordance with KCC regulations and then submit a post-plugging certification of completion. The Conservation Division Director will then grant reimbursement for plugging the well based on compliance with the KCC's well plugging requirements, the sufficiency of the post-plugging certification, and submission of invoices for the plugging costs. And the Conservation Division is very excited about promulgating this regulation because staff believes it's in the state, which should benefit not only the environment, but also benefit landowners and farmers who have abandoned wells on their property that they want to get taken care of. In drafting the proposed regulation, staff consulted with members of the Oil and Gas Advisory Committee and received very insightful comments from Cuyahoga and ECOGA. I believe that staff put in a great deal of effort to consult with all the stakeholders during the drafting process for this proposed regulation. As for next steps, I have written an economic impact statements and environmental benefit statement for the regulation, and we plan to submit and reports to the relevant state agencies to hopefully get this process moving forward. We do intend to keep the commission informed of our progress by filing updates in docket 25-CONS-3194-CINB. So with that, Director Hoffman and I would certainly be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tristan. It's my understanding you don't need any approvals from the commission today. This is an informational presentation, but I will ask at this time whether there are any questions from the commissioners of you or Mr. Hoffman, and I'll begin with Commissioner Keither.
Does this address in any way the financial aspect of playing the well? I know, and getting into the funds to be reimbursed.
I apologize. I missed the first part of that question. If you wouldn't mind repeating.
I'm just curious. I know I've had conversations with Ryan about the financial cost of well plugging and people coming in and, you know, with exorbitant cost. And does this help to address any of that?
Yes, absolutely. So the Conservation Division Director can look at what the proposed cost is and decide if that would be exorbitant or not, and does not have to approve the plugging application.
Okay, thank you.
And Commissioner Keene, any questions on this item?
A few questions for me. Thank you very much. I'll try to direct my questions to you, Ryan, if I might. First of all, let me commend you and the staff for the time and effort that you've put into the development of these proposed regs. For the benefit of all of us and to refresh my recollection, when was the enabling legislation enacted?
Well, if you recall, I think the process actually started in 2019, and then the actual legislation was introduced in 2020, but like most legislation that year, didn't go anywhere because the COVID shortened session. The legislation was then passed in 2021, and the process has sort of been ongoing since.
Very good. Well, I mean, as a general overview, observation, is it safe to say that trying to work through some of the nuances of this particular regulation have some rather complicating elements to it? Is that right?
It is not just the nuances of this particular regulation, but it was also the context of when it was happening in terms of all the federal dollars that were being released and the focus we put onto using those funds that sort of made that a higher priority because of the timing related there.
Thank you for that. Tristan alluded to it in his overview, but if you could, for the benefit of the commission, I think it would be very helpful, and I think it would reflect too upon the extent of effort that's gone into the development of this regulation. Could you explain for us, in whatever level of detail you feel convenient, the vetting process that was involved in getting the regulation to the point it's at right now, where you're preparing to actually proceed forward with the steps toward implementation, toward adoption?
Well, I would say we approached it with the mindset that we needed to make it in a manner such that people would actually utilize it. So rather than us just coming up with a base regulation and saying this is what it's going to be, we submitted, I would say, probably various drafts back and forth between ECOGA and Cuyahoga and listen to their input about what would be workable, what wouldn't be workable. Then we talked about it on our end, whether or not that language would work for not just legally for our staff, but also with our district supervisors and district staff. And then that final product is what you see being put out there now.
Thank you for that. And I know the industry involvement in assisting in back and forth determinations of what should be in the regulation was important to them. And I think that kind of process really lends itself to having a regulation that will be worthwhile, accomplish the goals you've just set out, and serve the long run best interests of the state. Uh, my final comment is this: I want to personally thank you, Ryan, for the leadership that you have brought to bear in this particular project to bring it to fruition. I know it's going to be an important aspect of well plugging in the state, and it extends the ability to plug wells beyond the more conventional methods. So thank you very much for your time and effort in that respect.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't give credit to staff and the industry for their work as well. So
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Well, I have no additional questions, but thank you to both Tristan and Ryan for coming, sort of keeping us updated at the front end, and then we'll wait to see how this moves through the process. So appreciate both of you being here today. With that, we have come to the conclusion of all the listed items on today's agenda, but as I indicated before, I intend to make a couple motions separately to enter into executive sessions. So first, at this time, I will move the commission enter into executive session not to exceed 20 minutes to discuss attorney-client privileged matters pursuant to KSA 754319B2 for consultation with an attorney to obtain legal advice. And I further move that the following be included in that meeting. In addition to the commissioners, I would move to include our executive director, Lynn Retz, our general counsel, Brian Fedotin, and Conservation Division Director, Ryan Hoffman. And anybody speak up right now if I've missed anybody that's supposed to be in that session, but I believe that's everyone. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to enter into executive session for attorney-client privileged matters for 20 minutes. Is there any further discussion on that motion? All in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. All right, we will move into executive session for 20 minutes. I have 10:21, so we will return at 10:41. Michelle, if
Okay,
you can.
It'll be just a minute. I'm not finding my thing to create a meeting. Hold on.
I'll give an updated time when we'll reconvene once we find our button. I want to make sure we get our full 20 minutes, and we can extend it if we have to.
Okay, and is it pretty, you said Brian, the commissioners, Lynn and Ryan, correct?
Yep. So it's everybody on the call right now other than you.
All right. Opening the room now.
All right, thank you. We will reconvene at right, the commission is now out of executive session where no action was taken. Looks like we may have lost Commissioner Keen in the process. As I said, I do anticipate making another motion. Let's take a brief 2-minute recess here to allow Commissioner Keen to get back online, and then I will make my next motion.
Yeah, Michelle, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
When I tried to leave the breakout room, I went way beyond that. I went out of the system. So you might kind of be alert. The only way I know to get back in is to go back to square one, which is
If you wait, I can close when I close the room, it'll give you the option, do you want to return or something like that? And I don't think I had the room closed yet when you dropped.
Oh, I was too quick on the trigger. That explains it.
Yes.
That
Okay,
explains
so
it.
we
Okay,
should be good. And Chair French said he was going to make a new motion.
very good. Thank you.
All right, looks like I do have all three commissioners here. All right, as I said, we've returned from our first executive session where no action was taken. But at this time, I will now move the commission enter into executive session not to exceed 30 minutes to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to KSA 754319B1 to protect the privacy of the individuals involved. And I move that just the commissioners, Commissioner Keither, Commissioner Keen, and Commissioner French be included in that executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second to enter the described executive session. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. All right, the motion passes. The commission will enter into executive session for 30 minutes and will reconvene at, I gotta do my math here, 11:16.
Michelle?
All right. The commission is returning from executive session where no action is taken, but I will move that the commission extend the previous executive session for another 30 minutes. Do I have a second? All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion is approved, so the commission will reconvene at 11:47. And Michelle, if you can send us to the breakout room again. Thank you. All right, the commission has returned from executive session where no action was taken. At this time, we have reached the conclusion of everything noticed on today's business meeting agenda. I don't believe there's anything more to come before us this morning, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank